This week on Home and Away in Australia, Cash's worst fears are realized, as Eden and Abigail find themselves held captive by Nerida. Nerida, an ex-client of Tim's, had originally been contacted by Cash as he dug for dirt on the counsellor, as part of a campaign to stop him seeing ex-fiancée Eden. Having noticed that Nerida had given Tim a glowing review, complete with 3 love hearts, Cash had suspected that Tim may have abused his position and entered into a relationship with her at some point in the past. Given that Tim had begun seeing Eden whilst he was counseling her sister Abby, which whilst unethical wasn't technically against the rules, Cash had hoped that he could prove that Tim had history. Cash therefore thought he'd hit the jackpot when Nerida claimed that she and Tim had been an item. But as Cash and Abby dug deeper, it later became clear that Nerida was a fantasist, and this so-called relationship was all one-sided. Cash began to fear for Eden's safety when Nerida subsequently warned him that Eden should watch her back. After seeing that Tim's car had been vandalized, and the share house trashed, Cash traveled to the remote estate where Eden and Tim had joined the rest of Lyric for a getaway, determined to protect Eden from harm. On his arrival that evening, Cash and Tim were seen arguing by Remy, only for Cash to wake up in the grounds the next morning alongside an unconscious Tim. Despite Cash having his own head injury, and with no evidence of anyone else having been on the island, Detective Mark Townsend charged Cash with the assault on Tim. Although Cash later remembered being attacked by Nerida, there was only Cash's word for it, with Townsend already having decided Cash was guilty. After asking to meet with her, Abby soon came to realize that Nerida must have been responsible, and after consulting with Senior Constable Rose, agreed to wear a wire in the hope of drawing a confession. They were left frustrated when Nerida clammed up however, and with Tim remaining in a coma, there was no other way they could prove that Cash didn't do it. Released on bail, Cash later approached Nerida with a bold offer. He wouldn't fight the charges placed against him, if she promised to leave Eden and Tim alone. It didn't take much persuasion for Nerida to agree. Cash's foster father Gary was fuming when Cash told him what he'd done to protect Eden, but both he and Rose were clueless as to what they could do to change his mind. Tim finally waking from his coma last week changed everything however, when he finally confirmed to Rose that Nerida had been the one to attack both him and Cash. The charges were dropped against Cash, with an arrest warrant issued for Nerida, whose current whereabouts are unknown. Though off the hook, Cash was worried that Nerida would go after Eden before the police were able to find her. This week, Cash is finally back in uniform, and is putting all his efforts into tracking down Nerida. His goal is to pursue Nerida until she is arrested and Eden is safe, Nicholas Cartwright told TV Week. He has to find her. Her realization that she was still in love with Cash had caused an argument between her and Tim on the night he was attacked, and she later admitted to Abby that the main concern in hoping Tim would wake up was so that he could clear Cash's name. The fact that Eden and Cash had kissed just as Tim was waking up only eats into Eden's guilt further, and she finds herself confessing all to Tim. Tim is angered by the revelation, and tells her to leave immediately. But little does Eden realize that as she flees the hospital in tears, Nerida is lying in wait for her. Spotting Eden on her own, Nerida strikes and plunges a syringe into Eden, knocking her out. Sometime later, in what seems to be becoming a Summer Bay tradition, Eden comes to an abandoned shed, finding herself tied up alongside Abby. Nearby, Nerida is dosing up a further syringe. Cash is concerned as he struggles to get hold of Eden, and with Abby also missing he immediately begins to fear the worst. As he organizes a police search to track down the sisters, will they be found before it's too late?